Yeah, we're live. Let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. Have the boys in the lab take a look at it. Let's see. Wow, that's too much. And we're back. There we go. Tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of things. One interesting, as I was signing on and trying to get this done, for some reason the computer did not want to cooperate. But I got an email while I was going through all of these steps to get this thing loaded and get it working from the guys from John over at J&S Electronics, and he said that I have new knock sensor technology that will work on the dyno even with a noisy motor. As you know, that's been one of my concerns. And running, I want to run. I'm going to try to see if I can get rid of some of this light here bleeding through over here. With running, I want to run knock sensor technology on there because I would like to find out what detonation threshold limits are when I'm running stuff. We just kind of do it by, I know that this will be safe at 21 degrees, and then it usually is. Until it's not, and that's the problem. But that's what I'd like to have the knock detection in there and have it functioning, because the times that we have tried it, it's not worked out very well. Normally what happens is, and this is, if it's not going to work, this is really the best case scenario. It's like overactive. It hears more things than are actually there. It's hearing more noises that are not detonation, and is activating. And we obviously don't want that, because we don't want it ruining the dyno pulls that we make where we know no detonation is present. So when we were testing it, for instance, back in the day, we were testing it on naturally aspirated motors that had premium gas in it, and let's say they're only a 9-to-1 motor, and we were running, let's say, 30 degrees of timing or whatever the number is, and we know that there's no detonation. We know that there's no detonation because we can see that we know how much timing that motor wants. And also we can see on the dyno curve, the trace is perfect. There's no irregularities, there's no misfires. You can hear, there's nothing there. And yet it was in these instances, it was telling us, yeah, there's detonation present and we need to take countermeasures. And so I'm like, okay, well, we're going to pass on that, because it's obviously, if it's not accurate, if it's, like I said, it's better that it sees something that's not there than not see something that is there. Of the two of those things, one of those is way better. But still, it was not enough for me to be able to feel comfortable relying on it to stop this thing from hurting itself. So the ideal situation is for me to be able to run boost and or timing and elevate these. Like, for instance, let's say I wanted to run a test on 87 octane. Well, how much boost and or timing can we run on 87 octane? On your typical kind of junkyard motor, we would run, let's say, 7 pounds and then turn the timing up and go, okay, well, at 87 octane with that kind of boost level, we can only run this amount of timing. But it would need to be able to do two things. The knock detection would be able to tell us that there's knock there, and then it would have to have applied countermeasures. Just like when you see all the flares fly out of either the submarine spinning stuff out to make bubbles and everything so that the torpedo chases that, or the flares and chaff and stuff that comes out of planes so that the missile loses lock on the big target and goes after this one and fire and all that, So countermeasures. So the countermeasures that I would want it to do is when it detects something is I need it to pull timing. Okay, look, if you hear knock, pull 4 degrees out, or 6 or 8 or 10 or 1 or whatever the number is that we program in. I would pull a lot, because what we want is, I don't care about that run. If we got knock detection, we would then turn the timing down and make another run until we didn't get that. So I want it to all like yank wholesale amounts of timing out just so it doesn't get hurt. And I don't even care necessarily about it doing hearing it in one cylinder and then be able, they can do that. So it can hear the cylinder that it's having trouble in and just take it out of that cylinder. If the rest of them are like, hey, we're good, man. There's nothing happening over here. I don't know what's number 5. I don't know what his problem is, but you need to take care of him over there. So if that's the case, and it could just take it out of number 5, that's ideal for, a situation where a guy is driving around in the car, and that would be perfect. That way, all the other ones are doing what they're supposed to. Number 5, for some reason, is just behaving, poorly, and so he gets timing removed. That would be great. But in this case, I wouldn't care if we just like everybody, they have 4 degrees away from everybody, so that we now know we can take it away. It would be cool to know which cylinder it was, because then we could go, look, that one is, when we make runs, repeatedly, and we keep seeing problems in one cylinder, then we would know, okay, well, that's something to look at. Should we look at the does that chamber have a whole bunch of carbon buildup? Does it have a hot plug in it? Is the cooling not right? We would look at other things to determine why necessarily that one. Maybe we would look at the injector and see if that injector is not flowing, what the others flow. More information in that sort of instance is always going to be better. But like I said, for my testing, I would just want to be able to run knock detection on it, find out what the level of timing we could run, find out what the level of boost that we could run, have this thing pull timing away when it hears detonation before it becomes a problem. So I want it to hear the stuff that we can't hear and then go, hey, look, something bad's happening. I'm going to pull timing out. I'm going to be safe, but it needs to be accurate. And when I was testing it before, that was really not the case. Now, I'll read you the email that I got from John, which is very cool. I'm glad that he reached out. So it says, so I'm excited about it and want to test it if it can actually do what he says he does. He says it can detect misfire, knock, and pre-ignition. It retards individual cylinders when knock is detected. It also has an input for knock sensor and a headphone output. It can select knock retard. You can select knock retard from the ion sensor or from the knock sensor for comparison. So now you can do knock control on a noisy race engine, which basically all of our engines on the dyno would kind of qualify for that because of the way that they're mounted and all of the noise that's associated with running this stuff on the dyno. And sense pre-ignition and misfire. So all of that sounds great. And John, I've already sent an email back to you. I don't know if you're watching, I've already sent an email back to you. And hopefully if it can actually do that, just like before, we will test it on motors where I know no detonation or pre-ignition or nothing bad is happening. And we'll test it on an NA motor and then see if we can get it to detonate. We'll do it. Maybe on that 4.8 would be the perfect example. The one that's going back together that was just kind of a mess from the wrecking yard, and we've fixed all of the things, the bad camshaft and the bad lifter and yada, 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 put all of that stuff back in and make that motor work and then run it and go, hey, guess what? In honor of you, like coming back to life, we're now going to try to destroy you. But, we'll see what happens. But that would be a good choice. And then hopefully that would be that. First of all, we need to make sure that motor runs. And if it does, then we could subject it to these kinds of testing. Then we could subject it to those kinds of testing. If this system works, under boost, we've got that blower that we ran from the guys from that AccuFab loaned me using that Demuse engineering adapter setup. We can also do that with a turbo. The blower thing would be interesting because it's making more boost than I want it to. But when I go down next time, we may put a more camshaft in it and bring the boost down and bring the power up. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think it's probably time that L33 got ring gap, or at least checked it to make sure that it's wide enough to be doing all the silly things that we're already doing with it. The other thing is the video and the other thing that I put in the intro for this is that the next video that I'm working on, I'm editing it right now, is a comparison using the L33, and we're comparing that Roots supercharger to a turbo because I've run both of those on the same motor, both of them with the Truck Norris cam from Brian Tooley, and we can see how those two things compare. Basically, they made this much horsepower per pound of boost kind of thing. So you can see that, not surprisingly, the blower, it takes power to run, it takes power to make power, and the turbo takes a lot less power to make the power that it makes. Subsequently, the end result is the turbo makes more power per pound of boost than the blower does. And then I also, not only with that motor, but I ran a very similar comparison on a LS3 crate motor that I had that the guys at GM supplied way long ago. And we ran that with a single turbo. In this case, it was a Precision 7675, good turbo. It was a 1200 horsepower or so turbo. And we ran that turbo. And then I also ran it with a Kenny Bell 2.8 liter. So enough, that's easily 1,000 horsepower or more supercharger. So, and we didn't run it anywhere near that. We were closer to the 800 horsepower deal. In fact, we were only like at, I don't know, 8-9 pounds or something like that with the Kenny Bell. But in both of those instances, you can see the comparison and kind of judge for yourself what's going on with those. And not surprisingly, again, the turbo, in terms of power output, is definitely the way to go. But the blower stuff still, that doesn't stop the blower stuff from being very popular and being very effective. So I want to know what you guys think. There's some sharp guys here, so let me know what you think about the technology. And hopefully, like I said, I'm excited about it. Hopefully, John's got it worked out, and it will be able to, detect as we would want it to, and then provide the necessary countermeasures. That part of it, I think, is actually scienced out. That's not going to be an issue. The old system that he had would do that anyway, and then hopefully the detection part of it is optimized, and it can detect the difference between the frequencies for the detonation that we would experience on our particular motor versus the other noises that it would hear, valve train noises, our solid motor mounts, our drive coupler, all of those things that would also be making noise that you normally wouldn't hear in a vehicle where when you have a factory unit that's isolated and has rubber mounts and runs a particular drivetrain and all that. And then you can listen for, and at the OEM level, they can make it knock and go, oh, that's what that sounds like. So that's what we want to listen to. Here are the specific frequencies, and then they can tune that, and that all works. And I think for me, it seems like that goes out the window when you start making modifications, put roller rockers on it or those kinds of things. But the aftermarket stuff, I think, is a little bit more difficult, because what we run lots of different kinds of motors that have lots of different configurations, lots of different mounting procedures and stuff. And so I think that is a little bit more difficult than having a specific combination that you're tuning it to. So we'll see. I'm excited about it. And then the blower turbo thing will go up probably tonight, and then I'll be working on another one for tomorrow. So let's see what you guys got going on. Who's saying that the Clevelands are not good? Puppet Master's in the house. Use the block drains on the 460 for knock sensors like small block Chevys do. Will stock lifters work on an LS3 TSP stage 3 cam? We run stock lifters on almost all of the cam swaps that we do. So the lifters that were in the LS3, that crate motor, for instance, were used for every cam that we put in it, which was a lot, like 30 or 40 camshafts that we ran in that particular crate motor, because we did swaps. We did cam tests over and over and over and over again. Same thing with the junkyard stuff. When I've run the stock cam, the truck Norris cam, the sloppy stage 2 cam. I did a best cam, I think, way back. And I don't remember if it was this motor, but every cam that I've run in a junkyard motor has the junkyard lifters in it too. Sometimes we clean them, but they're the original ones. A buddy of mine bought a 59 Chevy rat rod truck with a 671 to 454 aluminum Edelbrock oval port heads. They had R44T AC Delco plugs that were wrong. It needs a colder plug. I'm not that familiar with the AC Delco stuff, but it needs a colder plug, and you need to bring the plug gap down to, I'd bring it down to 20 or something, and then put like a 7 or an 8 heat range in there. I don't know how much boost he's trying to run and stuff, and what kind of fuel he's running. Check out Plex knock monitoring V3. It works by listening while dynoing the engine under no knock conditions with conservative tune as a baseline. Yeah, PSIs were good. Yeah, you can't use twin screws and then top fuel. Once it knows what all the normal sounds are, it will know that any other sound that occurs as you remove octane or add timing or knock. Ben Strader, if he uses on his dyno. Yeah, I'll give Ben a call and see, but I don't have that system, so knock sensors are exciting. How does the knock detection work on GNS? I'll see when they have the system over. We can talk about that. We found air temp seemed to be the big difference. Air density differences, turbos win, and then the PSI comes along. 1 Liter Mafia is in the house. Would you have any idea where to place knock sensors on a 460 Ford? Haltech ECU has 2 built in. I've seen guys just a lot of times they will bolt something to the block, like they'll thread the piece of aluminum or a piece of steel, bolt it to the block using one of the bolt holes that are almost always on the block for various things. And then they'll plug it into that. Somebody was suggesting put it in the plugs for the water, the block drains, yeah, because the factory uses block drains on stuff. And the other thing is that's another issue is that, you know, there's a universal position for a knock sensor. The knock sensors are tuned differently when they're in different spots on the motor. Car auctions doesn't make sense anymore. The cars that should bring money don't, and the cars that shouldn't bring hardly any money bring in tons. I don't know what's going on. On my Hemi stuff, I like to use knock sensors for tuning. You can log knock sensor voltage. We just check the knock sensors by whacking the block with something metal. That works. It will ring. It will ring true. I think Holly has the ability to run knock sensors. It was popular to put a spacer on the knock sensors in 80s to 90s VWs. Were they overly sensitive? I remember guys wrapping some of their knock sensors with the thread sealant tape too, and screwing it back in so that it wouldn't be quite as sensitive. My guess is the engineers probably know a little better, but let me see if he says, Dan, let me see if he says what they are. I don't know if he put that in the email. He gave me some links. I don't know if he talks about that. Let's see here. AOL. Let me see. See if he indicated that. It's an ion system, is what he's saying. It's recording the signals on a scope. I recorded the ion signals and ignition trigger on my Sony recorder. I played the tape from the test session. That's all it says in the email. That's all I got. Mr. King, we didn't use the knock sensors on the L36 L67 testing? No, we didn't use knock sensors on it. We don't need sensors. That's minor detonation. Have you messed around with any of the self-tuning multi-port stuff? Holly, the Holly HP will do self-tuning. The Fast will. They'll all run under closed loop, if that's what you mean. Ford did them in the valley. Yeah, the LSs were in the valley, and then they moved them to the outside. If you need a sensor telling you have spark not going on, you shouldn't be driving. I can remember being down at Huntington Beach with Steve from Powertrain Dynamics, and having motors come in and they run it on the chassis dyno, and he would roll into it and it'd just be rattling. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. And then I would ask the customer, I'm like, what's going on? Did something just get clogged on the way over here, or what? Or did the distributor move, or whatever? What's going on? I don't know. It's been making that noise for a long time. I said, you've been driving it like that? Oh yeah, all the time. I'm like, oh yeah. Do you have any books on how to rebuild a motor? No. Why? I said, because you're going to be rebuilding that one. Because audible detonation like that is not good. Randall, I've never looked into the factory ECU allowed different rates of retard on knock detection. I don't know if they have a scale for that. I think that they do. Yeah, not hearing knock with open exhaust. Like I like running stuff with mufflers anymore, even on the dyno. But with open exhaust, the way that we run a lot of stuff, it's terrible. Subsonic detonation is real. It's a real thing. Have you ever done any dyno testing with water meth pre or post blower on an Eaton? We ran the water meth on the M90 supercharger on the 3800 before the blower. Stock four-wheel drive, single cab, 2002. Yeah, 2002 in the house, although that's a 6-liter HD. Planning on single turbo with truck Norris cam, 410 gears. What PSI should I shoot for if leaving ring gap alone? You're on your own. It may work and it may not. We ran 15 pounds with the blower on the L33 on the engine dyno, but there's no safe amount that will work with that. It could break with 2 pounds. It could break with 20 pounds. You just don't know. Looking for headset kits. Do the LY6 6-liter engines need the 2-bolt or 3-bolt kits? I don't know what the... You mean the different sizes? An LY6 is a Gen 4, so you need Gen 4 head bolts or head studs. Oh, we do need a poll tonight. We didn't have one last night. Okay, so the poll is going to be... Will the new owner of the Nova get it done in 31 days? I'm going to change this. Will the new owner of the Nova get an engine installed and do a burnout in 31 days? Inquiring minds want to know. Boom. And we're off and polling. V6 3-liter and V8 5-liter Land Rovers had knock sensors in the valley. Yeah, that's a commonplace. And then outside, like we were talking about in the drain holes. How come turbos haven't gone to multiple turbine like jet engines? Well, jet engine is a different thing. Have you tested 8V71 blowers? What is that? I've tested 871 blowers, but I don't know what an 8V71 is. The Gen 3 uses 2-bolt stud lengths. Yeah, the Gen 3 has longs and shorts, and then the Gen 4, they're all the same. So an LY6 is a Gen 4. They're all the same, and they're all shorter. The Gen 3 has longer ones. The worst rattle traps were the Super Speedway 17-to-1 restrictor plate motors. Yeah, they were trying to get it all out of those. If the driver wasn't careful pulling out of the pits, it would detonate hard. So did it detonate hard at part throttle, Dan? We didn't have that poll yesterday because I didn't have a poll yesterday, right? Foreign automobiles. Did we? I didn't think we had a poll yesterday. but you would know since it's about you. I guess we did, right? Dang it. Other than a lean condition or inadequate cooling, what could cause pre-ignition? There are other things too. The chamber shape and design, the buildup of carbon, the plug design and tip, the lack of cooling, not enough timing, having really high EGTs. Ever worked with a positive displacement blower on a 4-cylinder? Yeah, many times. We did a lot of Honda stuff with the. So when are you going to race lemons? That's what I want to know. I don't have anything to race. I don't have a lemons vehicle to race, but I have run in those races before. They're fun. The positive displacement blower, I ran an M62, I think. Yeah, ran an M45 and a 62 on the Focus. I ran both of those on various different Honda applications because I was doing stuff with Oster Jackson. We were doing testing on those. So I have run those. There's a video up of the Honda B16 with the Jackson Racing blower on it. And then we compared it to the turbo and a Vortex centrifugal blower. Marcus, where are you racing at? Pre-ignition and detonation are two different things. Yep. As the name implies, one of them happens before the spark plug ignites the mixture, and one of them happens after. Eight V71 blowers have the bolts at an angle on the sides of the blower housing. I think they come off of a V6. Houston, Denver, New Orleans. They need to up the car value. You can't find a car for 500. Yeah, that's not well, and none of those cars are $500 cars. Marcus, aren't you using junkyard motors in those Lemons cars? What I want to know is how come ARP found Ellis head bolts worth twice that of Ford stuff? Why is an ARP stud better than a factory bolt? I've had people tell me on the internet that that's not the case, that it's not as good. Okay. I would think that I think we're going to have the same answers that we had last time. Maybe we need a different one. Yeah, it was about 82 and 19 or 81 and right in that range. So we'll end that poll. So we know that he's definitely going to get that done. So I need to do a different poll. So we're going to create a poll. How about this? Will the new J&S knock detection work on the engine dyno? Marcus, so you're running 4.8s and 5.3s on an E36 BMW. That car should be pretty fast on the track. Making history, 2 poles in one night. Nice. So do all GM performance engines, as the L96 crate engine, come with LS7 lifters? Asking for a friend. I don't know. I don't know what they're putting in there. I don't know if that's their go-to lifter or not. Kurt, you're having trouble with autocorrect there? Cummins uses turbos. Detroit diesels are 2 strokes, and the blower is used to blow air through the intake. No boost, just air volume. Crankcase evacuation. Yeah, you know it's a good club when there's 2 poles. A 2-pole club, that's pretty good. It's pretty high zoot. Head studs and rod bolts to the most oversold engine parts. I on LS stuff, I don't ever change the rod bolts. We use the factory stuff on all, especially all the big bang motors have those because the rod is going to separate before the bolt has a problem. Even on some fairly high RPM stuff that we've done, when we did the, I'm thinking when we did the, no, even the 8,000 RPM deal, trying to remember what, I think we put rods and pistons in that. I think we did. But even the junkyard stuff that we rev fairly high, 7,500 or something, that has stock rods and stock rod bolts in it. Can I just use the formula for bore size to set the frequency for detection in the Holley Terminator X software and set it to 1 wire and plug it into my factory 97 LT1 knock sensor? Does anybody have an answer for that? Is the formula for bore size going to be accurate for frequency? Anything over 500 horsepower, you're going to put studs in. I don't know anymore that I would do that. You need to put studs in an NA motor. Especially after doing this stuff that we've done in the past. Admiral's out. Peace out. Hopefully you took the time to answer the poll. E36 is a fantastic chassis. I agree. The BMW stuff is awesome. The LS fits and the car is easy to work on. Limitations are stock slider brakes and wheel width under the stock fenders, 255s. But that car with 255s is going to handle pretty well, though. Sloppy would make 1,000 wheel with stock head bolts and never lifted a head. I guess he wins. I think Matt likes to take off and reuse the stock head bolts too. What did they must have had 4-cylinder Detroit diesels too, because that's what the 471s were used on. So I remember seeing some small blocks back in the day with a 471 and even some V6 stuff that guys put those blowers on. A propane torch to the old bolts. Uh, 471 was a diesel bus blower. Cool. See, we're learning. What worked great for me as far as LS dimension was the relatively short height. Yeah, with a factory intake manifold on there, they're pretty shallow. Engine bay is width, but is shallow. Yeah. That's one of the problems with the BMW engine compartments for guys trying to put turbos on the 6-cylinder ones is it gets they're limited in how much turbo they can put under there. They need big turbos. How's our poll doing? 77% are saying yes on the JNS knock detection. So I'm sure John will be happy to hear about that. They made a 271 blower too. I've been looking for a 271 blower to modify for the VW engine. Nice. Couldn't you put couldn't you put an M90 on there? I mean, how much does a 271 going to make? Big Dummy Garage, just want to say thank you, Richard, for all the videos. You helped me make a decision on and complete my first LS build. Congratulations on your first build. Detroit simply used the first numbers to designate the number of cylinders. That's the 4 and the 471, and the 71 was the displacement. Matt's fancy mechanics now. He probably won't reuse head bolts anymore. I think he still will. At the recent Cleveland car, someone managed to mount what looked like 2 M90s on his car for the burnout pad. That's perfect for that, because you got to do it with style. Like just spinning the tires isn't enough. They have to light on fire, and you have to throw flames out the hood and all kinds of cool stuff. We run a truck intake backwards on the E36. So are you drawing air from the cowl then? Because that would be good. Yeah, cowl hood. I have a twin turbo BMW. The thing sits in the engine belly. Gotta love the 8s. Yep. Packaging. There used to be a guy that modified B&M blowers to work on VWs, but don't remember his name. I don't think it would be that hard, right, to mount that. What they need, because since they have the air-cooled motors have 2 intakes on them, they need 2 blowers, one on each side, right? I mean, if you're going for style points, a turbo really is kind of the way to go. I've been testing with the Holley Sniper system. I have a 350 Chevy small block with an 871 blower, and since the carburetors are for naturally aspirated system, I was thinking of going that route. So you're going to put them on top of the blower then? What's the best way to clean the block? Are you talking about wiping out the cylinders? I use brake clean to wipe them out, and then we use ATF, and then I usually keep wiping it until, depending on how much I care about the motor. If it's a junkyard motor, then I don't care, and I do it once and it's good. Otherwise, we'll keep wiping out the ATF until we don't get anything more on the rag. Torque-to-yield rod bolts worry me, and these Hemi rods I have, but if you have run them with no issues, then I would guess they would live on the 318 block. The Hemi, the Big Bang Hemi didn't lose rod bolts, so I think that I don't have as much experience with those as I do with the LS stuff, but I would think that the rod would break on the Hemi, on the late model Hemi, before the rod bolt would have a problem. 30 pounds from a TO3 will last 1 trip to the dunes. Yeah. You can put the block in the dishwasher. That'll be interesting. Vinny, I don't know what you're trying to say. Clean with brake cleaner, then Sudsy soap, dishwashing soap. Dawn works good on everything. Big Bang 3800, that is happening. What would be a good size cam to run in a hydraulic roller cam small block Chevy going into a boat that has a 2-barrel? For now, we'll get a 4-barrel later. Cast exhaust manifolds. In a boat, does it have a wet exhaust? Probably something small. Like, look at that PE 246 cam or something like that. They're making over 800 horsepower in Pro Stock VW classes with single turbos. They made it into 7s on the quarter. I think the class is gone now. But they weren't doing those with stock cases, though. Will you do some Hellcat blower tests? I don't have a Hellcat. I don't even know that I think I stood next to one over at Kenny Bell. They had one. Yeah, 7s is pretty sporty. The VWs with turbos on them were pretty cool, especially a lot of them were draw-through turbos. Like they would put an mount for either a 4-barrel, or a lot of them had side drafts on them too. Rodder's Garage is a YouTuber who brought the twin M90 car. What kind of car was it, and what motor were the twin M90s on? The Dung Beetle. The nice thing about the Volkswagen stuff is obviously they weigh nothing, and then they also hook pretty well. So on the street, that's important because if you can 60-foot a guy, then he's got to run you down. I use diesel and powdered laundry soap. We use laundry soap for a lot of stuff to clean up messes, like at the dyno. Randall, yeah, the arrow on a bug is not ideal. That's why they were good 8th mile cars, maybe. So 78% are saying that they think that the knock detection will work. That's good. Oh, 3 dry ice blasters. Those are kind of cool, but man, that's that's not a cheap date, I wouldn't think. I do like playing with dry ice. That's why I look forward to Halloween, because we always go get some to, we got to make the witch's cauldron. I know the ice cream man was in the background. He just cruised by. But there weren't any kids like running after him like you got to do. He like steps on it just a little bit, so they got to catch up. Jose, do you have a Turbo Sunbird? Because those are kind of cool. Yeah, the ice cream truck did go by. Tim, pizza. Pizza. Yeah, it's the adults chasing him, I know. Yep. It's a big perm. Casey, I have most everything to do with draw through for my VW, but the header has cracked many times, welded, so I'm going to copy it and stainless. That's cool. We clean railroad trucks. Oh, and axles are dry. Man, see, now everybody's going to be thinking ice cream. I think I have some, what are they? Not it's what are they? Oh, Klondike bars. Now they're calling my name. What would you do for a Klondike bar? Oh, the twin M90 car is a Sunbird. But what motor is in it? Baja pipe on the VW works well. Add a brace to block, from the flange. I've seen that too. Guys try to mount it on there, and it needs some turbo exhaust Viagra. Dry ice blasters to clean our electric motors on drilling rigs. See, I never would have known that. That's why you're here to learn. Dun, dun, dun. I'm trying to remember what this was for. I think it was for a Weber. These are big stacks. How did you order one from the pretty waitress? She is pretty. Dry ice in a Gatorade bottle with a little water goes. Yeah, I showed my kids that we would do the the little 99-cent water bottles or whatever, and just stuff a bunch of dry ice in there and pour some water in there and just throw it out on the grass and do the grenades. I think the VSEC fits the 52 millimeter IDAs. It might. This I think was from when I was doing that VW testing. I think that this is one of the ones, because this is even just like this one has. This is a billet one. This thing is machined in. This one is rolled in. You could probably yeah you can see it. So that's the hold down for it, and that was just beaded. I like those radius entries. Marcus, contact Hennessy here in Texas. Let them know who you are. You might be able to get an extremely cheap-free Hellcat and LT4 blower. They have dozens of takeoffs. I know John very well. I raced against him way back in the Silver State and stuff, and so we're friendly. If he has those blowers sitting around, I can reach out to John and see. I believe it was a small block Chevy with twin M90. Twin M90s on anything is good. I've seen several tests, but curious your thoughts on a specific case. How much horsepower do you think I'm leaving on the table using shorty headers on my heads cam and intake LS1 with 6 to 7 PSI through a Vortec? I honestly don't think very much. I think I have header tests. I might have header tests with a centrifugal blower. You can almost reuse your cam bearings when rebuilding an engine if you very thoroughly clean it, but not if you hot tank it. Okay. If you add ring gap for boost but still run NA, how much power do you lose? We didn't lose any the times that I've tested it. On the Big Bang motors, it didn't show any change in power. A Hellcat blower on a 6.4 Hemi would be awesome. Yeah. Aren't the Hellcats 6.2s? Aren't they a different displacement than the 6.4s are? The problem with the Hellcat blower is you have to then adapt it to something, unless you get all of the Hellcat intake manifold and drive assembly and all that. A Hellcat blower is pretty cool, and you could easily adapt it. I'm sure Tom could do it from Demuse, or we could make a simple adapter plate to go on top of this adapter plate. That wouldn't be too hard. The guy from Phoenix Performance or something ran the Silver State. I did a Dodge 3000 GT clone with landy heads, big turbos, and big coolers. Average 200. Never been to one though. A Dodge. When I was there, nothing in a Dodge twin turbo ever averaged 200, and I only know of one car that's ever averaged 200. That was the Cup car, because the average 200 is very difficult. But I haven't been there for a while, so things could have happened since I've been there. I guess it's boosted, so just drop down a pulley and that makes it for the headers. The headers, the thing that I would like about having the headers on that application is you're still running the factory intake, I'm assuming, with a Vortec or some sort of long runner style intake. Headers will help that centrifugal blower down low and through the middle and a lot of the curve. Let's say that they didn't add a whole bunch up top compared to the shorty headers or to a stock exhaust manifold, but they will help down low, and that's where the Vortec is making less boost than it does up top, obviously. So it would gain in the area that you would want gains. Granddaddy's in the house. I'm running a Hellcat blower on a 6.1 liter Jeep. Oh, cool. So you're running a fast 102 with it. That's good. That's a good, that's kind of the go-to intake for me. That's the one I would recommend for 90% of the LS stuff, because even from as much as 7,000 and below, that intake is really hard to beat. So if you do, or you are able to make more power than that, it's going to be a trade-off somewhere. So we're at 78%, 87 votes. Come on, there's 134 people here. Yeah, rock the vote. See, so all my preaching did did say something about the intake manifolds. It is a really good, that 102, the LSXR, the LSXRT, they both kind of make the same power. It is a really good LS intake manifold. I mean, the dyno testing shows that every time that I run it. Yeah, and if you've got a Vortec and on there, going up in boost is pretty simple. I mean, it's just a pulley swap way. And if you're only running 6 or 7 pounds, then you've got a pretty good sized blower pulley on it, or a pretty small crank pulley. Oh, the other thing that happened today before I have to get going is I had lunch with Terry, aka Coverman, and we were talking about doing some testing together. He's out here. He was out here for a wedding and stopped by. Whenever he comes out here, we try to get together. It's always good to see him. And we're talking about doing testing. I think he has an LSA blower assembly that we can run on something. So I want to run it on, I'd actually like to try to run it on a couple of different engine configurations, like a 4.8 and a 6 liter, and then run different camshafts on it, and run maybe a ported blower versus a stock blower, which would be good, different pulleys and things like that. One of the things that happened when I ran the GT500 blower with the adapter kit that Demuse set up is I got a lot of the guys, the LSA guys, commenting saying, "Hey, have you run an LSA?" And I've never run one on the engine dyno, and I should, because it's a fairly common upgrade. I just don't have one. I don't have, because even just having the blower itself is not enough, which you can get, or you could get before. And then if I do a story on it, I do a video on it, then I'm sure the price is just going to get jacked up like everything else. But you have to have a lot of the assembly to make that work. So the drive assembly and stuff. And so, it's an involved setup to get it to work. And then, but if somebody has one and I can borrow it and use it and run it and then just give it back, that works out best for me, because I don't want to buy one, because I don't want to have it at the end. There's nothing I'm going to do with it other than run it on the dyno. And if I can do that and run it and then give it back to somebody, that works out perfect. And so we might be able to do something with Terry, which will be cool, because he's a really cool cat. A PD 4.8 versus a larger cube LS with a centrifugal blower would be interesting. I probably already have that data. I ran the Cadillac blower on the 4.8. I don't know if that's an ideal situation, but the thing is, a centrifugal blower, unless it's really small, like a not a power dyne, but a torque storm, which will be limiting the maximum amount of power. But I have run that on LS stuff already. We could kind of compare that. Did you ever run the Silver State when the guy had a black RX-7 with a 3 rotor in it? No, I didn't. There was nobody out there with a 3 rotor when I was there. I've run lots of centrifugal blowers on LS motors. I ran Vortex on them. I've run Paxtons on them. I've run Torque Storms on them. Run Prochargers. I've run all of the centrifugal blower family. A 3 rotor would be cool. If it was a turbo 3 rotor, did it run and last? Because when I was there was a turbo RX-7, but they ended up breaking. But we like the car. There was also a Saab Sonnet out there with the 289 Ford in it, which was just, it had way too much front overhang on the motor, which was not good. So we're going to go ahead and close out our poll. 79% saying yes, that they think they have confidence in the new JNS knock detection. Hopefully it will work on the dyno. I'm excited about it. I think it will be cool. If it works, it'll give me, a whole bunch more data to use. $79 is the new 100. Yeah, I think we were at 81 or 82 or whatever on the poll from today and yesterday. Apparently I'm repeating polls already. Poll on poll action. This would have been 2000 or 2001. I was there for the first 12 years, and I think that the first one was 89 or 90, I'm thinking. Probably 90. "20V rotaries are getting expensive. Complicated swapping one in." Yeah. I do want to do something with Rob. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. Rounding error. That's it. So we just round up from 79 or anything above 51. Goodman, has anyone developed a cross-ram supercharger intake to increase the runner length? The guys from Edelbrock have one where the runners are on the outside and then the blower is flipped over and then it blows up basically and then into the runners. They're longer than most systems are, but like Freiberger ran the 871 on the tunnel ram, and that worked fairly well. It definitely improved the power because the tunnel ram improved power over the short blower manifold, and that does work. But I haven't seen anything where they have a low cross ram on there, but that would be kind of cool. Did you see the guy running the IMCA car? You worked on that too. That would be that's a good combination. Any kind of Cup or Busch Grand National or IMCA, any of those are good because they're robust and they got naturally aspirated motors on them, which last, and they'll take that kind of wide open throttle for a really long time. Rob needs to make dyno plates. To run that. I'm sure that there have to be. I know that the guys from the carb shop have already run rotaries on their dyno, but there's the DTS though. On air-to-water intercoolers, what's the gallons per hour pump you need? I don't remember what ours were on the Bonneville car. We used 2 of the Lightning pumps, but on the engine dyno, we have 1,000,000 gallons an hour, whatever the dyno pump is. As a matter of fact, we just regulate it with a valve. He's talking about doing his own production motors, CNC rotors. He must be doing really well on YouTube. I mean, he does get a lot of views. And he's obviously making promotional money too. I was told by a local dyno guy here, a racer, that they run the long port intake to kill torque on the bottom end to preserve connecting rods. Is it possible? What's a long port intake on what? You need to tell me what kind of motor we're talking about here. And if it's a longer runner, that's not going to kill bottom end. that's going to improve bottom end if it's an intake runner length. I haven't ever seen a motor that would hurt low speed power on, like an LS dry tunnel ram. A tunnel ram, well, not a tunnel ram, like the high ram loses low speed power compared to like a fast manifold, but will make more power than a really 2 or 3 or 4 inch runner will make more low speed power than those. So the longer it is, the more low speedish the power will be. Most people run the Ford 5 gallons per minute, 300 gallons per hour, air water pumps. Is that the Ford? Is that the Ford Lightning pump that I'm talking about? A lot of guys back in the day were running bilge pumps, which didn't really flow very well. And a lot of them, even the bilge pumps, don't flow very well under pressure either, which pumps always the flow rate goes down with pressure when they're having to flow against pressure. But some of them react better than others. What effect do tapered runners have? They have multiple effects. From an inertial ram standpoint, it should improve airspeed as long as the taper is the right angle. And it also is going to change the cross-section area. Pretty sure that was a lightning pump, yeah. Similar to step headers. I don't think it's the same as a step header because a step header is more abrupt. 7-degree taper seems to be the number. Because otherwise, if it's more than that, you get separation. But I've seen guys fight about those numbers too. No, it needs to be needs to be 5.875, you know, whatever their number is. And honestly, I think if you did tests and you had, I mean, the ideal way to do it, the easiest way would just be to do stacks first, and then you could 3D print all these stacks, and then you could have them be different, you know, different tapers and stuff, and see what happens. And what you might be measuring is it might be next to nothing, like a 6-degree or a 7-degree or a 5-degree, or, you know, I think once you get to a certain point, you'll start losing power. But there might be a sweet spot range where it kind of does the same thing. I'm doing ring gap on my 302 Mustang and ordered a torque storm. Do I need a standalone ECU, or is there already made tune file I can just program without having someone tune it? I don't know of any pre-tuned deal for a Mustang. I don't know what year it is. You didn't say. I don't know of any canned tune that you can put in there. It's probably gonna have to be tuned. You ran some of the first step headers on a drag boat? I don't know how somebody would know that they were the first. Air-to-water flow rates also depend on the hose size. Yep, a lot of people run 3/4 inside diameter radiator hose until they step up to 1-inch inside diameter radios. More flow is better. Yeah, can tunes, you know, they're in the can. Yeah, Dan, that's what I was saying. That the taper, like I said, is something that it's an esoteric thing that guys might argue about, but it's it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not really something. And that's the problem, though, is that as those things get out, somebody will say, "Oh, it's got to be 7 degrees, it's got to be 6 degrees, it's got to be only 2 degrees, whatever their thing is," and then people will take that as gospel and say that, well, we got to make that the intake manifold has to be that. It doesn't. And matter of fact, it doesn't have to have any taper in it at all. Lots of manifolds I've made that worked very, very well had a constant diameter, and they made lots of power. Can you dyno a diesel fuel pump on an LS, please? Why would we put a diesel fuel pump on an LS? if you tune can tuned, you're a can of tuna. That's good. I like making the runners adjustable because you can if you adjust the taper on it, very little is going to happen once you're in that sweet spot. If you change the runner length, big stuff is going to happen. I like seeing big changes on the dyno. So Zingari, can you explain to me what what diesel fuel pump you want to put on LS. Do you want to feed the motor with the diesel fuel pump? Are we feeding it gas with the diesel fuel pump? But maybe I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Have you heard the term ram pipes? Yeah, that's common usage. It's from if you're from England. I'm still going to build a sonic ram because it needs to happen. Ford Lincoln Continental 460 smog pumps are supposed to flow 50 CFM at 5 psi. 33 horsepower on a 20 horsepower motor cycle or go-kart. So you want to use that to supercharge it? I always wanted to put one of the smog pumps on my lawnmower. Fuel timing and pressure. I don't know. I still don't know what you're talking about. You want to alter the fuel timing, like the injector timing, and you want to alter the pressure. So you want to have lots of static fuel pressure in the injector. Injectors won't take a lot of fuel pressure because you won't be able to drive the injector. The injector drivers in the pump will burn out, and the injector will just flat out not open. I mean, it won't open under extreme pressures. Garage 54 did the diesel pump thing, but you don't want to emulate them. I like the Garage 54 guys. I like their stuff that they do, but I don't know what practical use a diesel pump on that application is going to do. Air tank supercharger, the compressed air supercharging stuff has been run at West Tech. It works really good. Adam, 331 stroker, stock block, 185 AFR heads. Curtis, do I need a standalone ECU? You can use the factory ECU and tune that combination with the stock ECU if you have the right size injector. I don't know if you're using a mass air for, did it say what year? Oh, 98. Do you have a mass air on that? Or are you going to tune it speed density? You can do all of that with the factory ECU. You don't need a standalone ECU. A standalone ECU would probably make that easier, though. Tim, how much boost can you run on LM7 without gapping the rings? I've never said 8 pounds. I've never gave you a number, and I won't give you a number because there's no number that's safe because you don't know what it is and you don't know for how long that you're doing it. So if you run boost and you don't have added ring gap, you do that at your own potential peril. Or the other thing is you could be a hero. We ran 15 pounds on the L33 without checking the ring gap, and it worked. And I've run 300 shots of nitrous without checking the ring gap, and it worked. Lots of people out there doing it, but lots of people out there breaking stuff too. Planning on running an air-to-water intercooler on my carbureted turbo big block. Yes, it will make a difference. I have a video up on adding an intercooler to a turbo carbureted big block, so you can take a look at that. I didn't see the one where they put the springs on top of the pistons. I need to watch that. I'm gonna go to Target and buy a 3-gallon jug of ice cream. Good. So what's the best flavor then? Yeah, I like the Garage 54 stuff. I like watching guys that use a big cylinder or cinder block with sandpaper on it or whatever to surface the head or the blocks. That stuff's awesome to me. Area 51. Someone pick up Richard Fox body. That's not an Area 51. Mine's out by Roswell. Yep. But we'll do that. We'll do what is the ice cream flavor poll tomorrow. Rocky Road is good. Pralines and cream when we go to Baskin Robbins though. But and I don't drink coffee, but Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream is really good. It's just like $8 million though. ICT car guy. It's both of those, right? It's like Boost. Vanilla bean, which we have because Lisa bought stuff to make root beer floats. And if you're going to do root beer floats, vanilla bean is definitely the way to go. Fox body is the 300K subs card giveaway. I'm not giving away my Fox body. I'm the original owner, so that's going to stay in the family. What's the recommended standalone? The nice thing about the Fox is there are, I think the Mega Squirt guys have a plug and play into the factory harness. I think I remember the Westech guys doing one of those on somebody's Fox, a really clean one that came in, Micro Squirt. Yeah, I thought that I think that they have one that just plugs right in. Vanilla and chocolate swirl, that's always good. And I don't like I only like the Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream. I don't like other kinds of coffee ice cream, only that one. Will it work on the 4R70? The trans control stuff, you're on your own. I don't know anything about that. One more question. You got a crew cut and half the crew bailed out. I'm telling you, you need to go the full Monty. Once you do that, you'll never look back. No more shampoos. You don't waste money on that. No more haircuts. None of that stuff. Any idea when the RB testing is going to happen? I don't know. Nope, I don't drink coffee in the morning. But a Monster works in the morning too, though. Yep, everybody hit the like button on the way out. So we have more likes than we have people because they know it's time. Okay, guys, I gotta get going. Thank you all for watching. Make sure when I'll put the video up tonight on the blower versus the turbo stuff. A lot of you guys that are here already, the spoiled ones, probably know what's gonna happen. But there'll be a lot more people watching. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll keep doing dyno videos. See you